Lubna, over to you.
Right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. Just super happy to see everyone around the room today, many familiar faces and many new ones. So I'm the founder of the company. The company is called Stories for many reasons, which I won't go into today for the sake of making sure that we stick to time. We are a coaching marketplace with 700 coaches in our network, and we love to see businesses grow. And we really, really believe in our heart of hearts that businesses grow only when you grow as individuals. Um, Today, every month we meet on a different topic. And this month we wanted to focus on the concept of leaning out or leaning in. It means different things to different people, but we chose that theme because this month was Women's Day, and as a women-led company, it's a very important theme for us. And I naturally prefer to lean out. I think women are told to lean into the table many times. And I have noticed in my life that every time I've leaned out and I stepped into my purpose, it has served me. So I would love to hear what everybody thinks. And we wanted to do that through a panel discussion today just to change the dynamic. We'd love to also hear from our community and give you a chance to ask a lot of questions because sometimes I feel we run out of time. So we're going to do only 3 questions to the panel today. Then we're going to take a pause, have a discussion. So please prepare your questions or ask a peer, ask any of the HR leaders around the room or ask the speakers. And if we don't have enough questions, we're going to come back and we're going to do an individual Q&A like we normally do. Sounds good? All right. Nadine, if we can have the screen maybe of our speakers today so that I can start by introducing them. Um, every month we have speakers from all over the world. And as you saw on the globe today, we have members from all over the world joins us. And I think that's what makes our community super unique compared to others in the HR space. And today we have speakers from new countries, and I'm very, very excited about that. We have Dr. Debbie Christensen. I hope I'm saying that right, Dr. Debbie. She's the general manager of Exhibition World Bahrain, and she's obviously joining us from Bahrain. Bahrain has a very special place in my heart. It's the place where I met my husband. Sometimes I curse it, sometimes I love it. I'm just joking. We also have Dudu Moilwa from Kenya joining us from Dhaka. She's the co-founder and VP of People from Dhaka. We also have Elchin from Aytemiz. I'm hoping I'm saying that right, also from Turkey. And I think it's wonderful to have somebody join us for the first time from these countries. And what I love also is that Dudu and Elchin are from our own community. We love to spotlight people from this community. So if any of you want to speak, do reach out privately and we'll find space and time in future sessions to feature you. Um, so I'm going to start with our lovely panel, and Nadine is gonna spotlight them. And as I mentioned, I want to keep the questions really brief, maybe 3 questions, so that everybody here can ask them questions as well. And maybe I'll start with Dr. Debbie. Dr. Debbie, welcome to the panel. Uh, Actually, let me start with everybody. I'll ask a question and maybe all of you can answer. I think that that would be a better flow. So my first question to all the panel is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to lean in or lean out? And what does leaning out mean to you? And maybe we start with Dr. Debbie, Dudu, and then Elchin, and we'll keep rotating that way just for the sake of flow.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. Honestly, it's wonderful to be part of this session today. For me, I'm more about, if you'd asked me that question 25 years ago, I would have said lean in because I didn't have the confidence in myself, but now absolutely lean out. You've got, if you want to have a seat at the table, you've got to be prepared to, you know, stand out, say what you want to say, and be present. So you're your own brand. You need to represent that brand of yourself. So for me, it would very much be leaning out, making sure that I have an opportunity to have a seat at the table.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. You do. What do you think?
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me on this panel today. I absolutely agree. I think for me, I'm much more inclined to leaning out. For me, leaning out is really about having and expressing your own voice, especially if it's not necessarily going along with what everyone else is saying. It's much more about being aware of what works for you, what gets you the results that you desire. If it's about going along with everyone else, then great. But in often cases, it's not. And if you can be confident enough to own your voice and express your voice, and really get to know and live out your purpose that way, then yeah, that for me is the way that one would go.
I love that. And I love the link and the mention of purpose here, because I really believe in my heart that when you are fully aligned with your purpose, you have the courage to lean out. So I love that. Elchin, what do you think?
Hi everyone. It's really very nice to be with you with this opportunity. I think for me, lean out is about an existential shift in life. It's about your personal transformation journey into the depths of your leadership, actually, and it cannot be limited only to your workplace. It's a whole. It's about how you expose yourself, how you do not accept directly the traditional norms or expectations projected onto you, but to challenge them, to break away from the conventional one. So I think it's about denying victim psychology, not to disengage or retreat in face of difficult situations, and try to build your own table, try to bring your best, your uniqueness, your authenticity to the table, whatever you are, and to inspire others to do so. Actually, I have a very good example, and it's the story of today to this meeting as well. In pandemic times, I was worried about what will happen to our loved ones, or as an HR professional, I didn't know what to do, as many as you actually. So I thought that we don't know the new rules of the game. So we have to come together globally to look for the new ways of the game. So that's how I started to attend global networks in the world. I attended SHRM, I attended HRCI, I became a subject matter expert in HRCI. And stories, also I attended stories to learn from you, from these HR professionals and valuable people, to lean out actually. So here I am with this opportunity, with this wonderful woman, professionals, to share, to learn from, to co-generate. I think today is our lean out example in life.
Beautiful. And I love to have people from our community also speak. So it's wonderful. My next question is shifting the concept of leaning out to the HR space. So what I've heard from our community is one of the pain points for HR leaders around the world is that they're not seen as a strategic function at all. They're seen as a cost center, and they're constantly being told to also lean in. And so I'm wondering from each of you, how can we make HR more strategic? What do we have to do? And maybe I'll start again with Dr. Debbie as the CEO and having worked with many HR leaders in the past. What do you think HR leaders need to do to be positioned as a strategic player?
Okay, well, first of all, I think as a leader, you also have to be yourself. You have to wear many hats. One of those hats as a leader is HR, is a teacher, someone who listens, a psycho. You have to be so many different to wear so many different hats. So it's important for me as a leader that I am very much aligned, not just with my HR director, but all the heads of departments. So from a HR perspective, it's about creating that real diversity, so that if you look at how you deal with your clients or your customers, it's not a one size fits all. So you have to make sure within your own organization you have diversity, you have equity, you have inclusion, that you give people an opportunity to grow, to be nurtured, to grow, to flourish within that organization. We all come from different backgrounds. We have different ethnicities. We have different values in life. We've been brought up in different parts of the world. Different things mean different things to us. So for me, it's about building a very strong relationship with the HR, because at the end of the day, your people are your biggest asset. They're not a cost center. They're your asset. They're your brand ambassadors. And I think the more leaders and organizations change the way that they think about their employees, that will drive business. Ultimately, it's your people who drive business because they're your representatives. So they are your biggest asset. They're not your biggest cost center. They're your biggest asset. So it's about changing mindset of the leadership. And it does come from top down. It has to come from top down to believe in that ethos and have share the same values.
And maybe just to build on that before I move on to Dudu, like, how can we shift that perception or change that perception for everybody out there who thinks that HR is a cost center?
I think be more involved in the strategy and the goals of the company, understand where the company wants to get to, how they're going to get there, and how HR can play a huge role in that organization structure. You have to make sure, again, when you have a vision and a mission, you need to have everybody's buy-in for that. And HR are the conduit to making sure that happens. You know, educating the team, educating employers, giving them the opportunity to grow, building that skill set, but making sure that they understand what the organization goals are and how they can work together to make that happen. So working very, very closely together with the leadership team.
So attaching yourself to the goals of the organization and helping that organization grow.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dudu, if we may shift over to you, if you can answer the same question, I would love that.
Okay. So I think I'm going to build on what Debbie said as well, that it's really about getting the leadership of the organization to appreciate how, without the necessary talent, you know, our bold, big strategy does not get to be executed, right? So constantly reinforcing that link to say, look, the talent is the key resource here. We can have the best strategy that we've ever come up with, but without the necessary talent, it's just gonna remain a piece of paper, right? So the real value gets unlocked once we have talent on board, and not only having talent on board, but having programs in place, having policies, processes in place that really help that talent to thrive and to contribute in a meaningful way. So without HR making that key link, we just remain in one place. We don't really get execution, we don't get performance, we don't get profit, you know, we don't get progress as an organization. So really reinforcing this to our leadership until, you know, they're in a position where they realize, okay, so people are at the center of all of this, and HR with all of its responsibilities are really key to unlocking the value that these people bring. So I think if as HR, we're able to really communicate this and position ourselves at the center of all of this, then the message really starts to get home to you know, the key leadership of the organization, that really HR is a key partner here. They're not just there to sort of perform the administrative function, which is maybe just one small aspect of HR, but they're really a value driver. They help us actually derive value from, you know, the one key resource here that makes everything happen. And I really think even as HR professionals, really learning to understand the language that the rest of the business speaks. So sometimes communicating this message in the sort of terms that they understand. If it's in financial terms, maybe being able to quantify what some of our efforts would result in terms of whether it's profit or how it's going to impact the bottom line, would help maybe sort of bring them on board as well to see, okay, I didn't necessarily get it before, but now that you put it in money terms, I understand the value. So I think as HR leaders as well, learning that language and also communicating through language that others understand can help, bring them on board and actually see the value that we bring as HR.
Thank you. And I think what's really interesting in your space is that you're a co-founder, and at the same time, you take care of the people aspect of the organization. And what's really cool about your work is that your business is unique, male dominated, very unique, last mile supply chain management in Kenya. Have you found it to be an asset as a co-founder to wear the HR hat, or has it been more difficult, especially when you're raising funds? Because we work with a lot of startups also.
I think it's definitely. Sorry. Yes, I think it's definitely an asset because I think especially in early stage businesses, HR tends to get left behind in terms of what the key things that are considered. So being both a co-founder and an HR leader it's helped me to bring those conversations to light much earlier on, and for us to consider, the people aspect and some of the culture and talent issues.
I think is
very early on, and for us to start sort of getting our heads around what we need to get in place very early on, rather than start, go full speed ahead, and then a little while down the line, we realize, okay, we should have thought about this earlier and thought about that earlier, and oh my God, we haven't put this in place. So I think it's gotten us to a very good start in that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. I think the quality of my connection here is not very good today. But anyway, let me continue. So yeah, what I was saying is that I do think it's been a definite benefit having me on board as both a co-founder and a VP of people, because it's brought up conversations much earlier in the process that'll benefit us down the line in terms of the culture that we're building, in terms of the type of talent we really should be thinking about, both now and as we scale up. So I think it's definitely an asset to be having those conversations at this stage in our development.
Beautiful, thank you. And Chin, I'll shift over to you. Tell me more. What do you think, especially in oil and gas space?
Actually, Dr. Debbie and Dudu very well said, and they summarized the core of it, I think. As an HR professional, I really support to be data and story driven at the same time. You have to speak the language of the business, but also you have to cover the emotional side that resonates with the people you are dealing with. And it's not always easy to address the cognitive skills, but also emotions of your stakeholders. Converge the minds and hearts of them at the same time. I think in order to do this, to make it happen, you have to humanize people-related statistics in business. What I mean, for example, in one business case, to the top management, as HR team, we did not only show the talent turnover ratios just as numbers, but we included flesh and blood pictures of the talents we lost to competitors during the last 3 years. So, as top management, our top management knew many of these talents by their name, by their families, but in person. They were shaken to see all these people living in the screen in one shot, and they questioned all the wasted investment and the lost potential revenues or lost successful projects we could make with these talents. So I think we have to combine in our communication as HR professionals. Foster collaboration and partnership is very, very important. We have to create empathy with our stakeholders as well to communicate effectively, to change the perception of HR and people-related issues at core. And also, as my colleagues mentioned, emphasize talent as a competitive advantage is the crucial part, I think. And it's not a short-term game, actually. We have to communicate well the long-term benefits of people-related issues to the organization. We are talking about sustainability. For the last 3 to 4 years, we realized that the sustainability is one of the keys in business, in beyond business, in people's life. So I think we have to show, we need to adjust our communication skills, lean out, and show the longer term of people-related issues to our businesses.
I love that, and I love the emphasis on the long term also. I think in the midst of day-to-day pressures, I love the emphasis on the long term. Thank you. I appreciate that. And maybe just one last question from me, and then I'm going to open up the floor to everybody to ask questions to either the panelists or have a conversation amongst each other. And then we'll come back. If there are no questions, we'll come back and continue more with our many, many questions that we have. The last question would be maybe in sound bites, in brief, if you could give 3 tips to an HR leader in this room today, something from your entire career that would help them on their journey, what would these 3 tips be? And again, I'll start with Dr. Debbie.
Okay, I'll go with words. So empathy. You must have empathy. You must be able to listen. People need to be able to share their thoughts and their feelings openly and in a trust environment where there's not going to be no repercussions, and they need to have the opportunity and the feeling that they will be given the opportunity to grow, the support, the necessary tools with which to grow. So to nurture, to develop, to motivate, to mentor.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, for me, I would say, and this would apply not just to HR leaders, but maybe to all leaders, emotional intelligence. I think that's one key trait, the ability to manage your own emotions, understand other people's emotions, because as HR, usually you're at the center of, very difficult conversations where emotions are running high. So you need to have very high emotional intelligence as a leader, as an HR leader. The other one I would say is be a good listener. That will come in handy, I think, in every part of your career. Be a very good listener. Listen, as they say, not just to respond, but to truly understand where other people are coming from. Will help you really, display that empathy. Will help you really, help other people feel understood, feel that you are on their side. And the other thing for me is big picture thinking, really truly understand where you fit in, where other people fit in, how it all works together for the greater good. I think being able to develop or cultivate that type of thinking as well would be very beneficial.
Yes, actually, I would start with their cognitive skills, strategic vision and business acumen. You have to master them to speak the language of the business so that people respect you, your capabilities, your business know-how, and gain trust and confidence in your expertise. And second, as Duda and Dr. Debbie said, emotional intelligence and relationship building is very, very important. And empathy creates active listening, creates a open field to enable this. And lastly, continuous learning and adaptability, because as HR professional, we don't know the new rules of future of work or the changing demography or the new technologies. So you have to keep up with the trends, with the technological advances, so that you get the most of them to create value in your HR related projects or people related projects. So be a part of the communities like this one, like stories or many others. Act on global, not local, but on global, because people related issues are all over the same. It's, yes, there are cultural differences, but the baseline is the same all over the world. I think I believe that the core does not change. So lean out and expand your horizons.
I love that. And I love the global perspective as well. It's something that we totally believe in. And again, this community is an example of that. I would love to get questions from the audience. If anybody wants to put their hand up and ask a question or write something in the chat, I would love that. And I want to make sure that you all have a space to learn from each other and to network. So does anybody have any questions? Don't be shy, lean out. If we don't have any questions, we will shift to asking more questions. We do have a question. Thank you so much, Beatrice. Repeat the skills required for HR practitioners. So maybe we could do that. Who would like to repeat the key skills? Dr. Davi?
From me, we've said empathy, being a good listener, adaptable, encouraging, mentoring. These are the words that stand out for me of what's important for an HR leader.
Beautiful.
Okay. For me, it was emotional intelligence, listening, once again, being a good listener, an active listener, as well as nurturing big picture thinking.
And for me, the global perspective, be a member, be a participative, be a member of the global societies, people, professionals, to feed from them and to contribute.
I had one more question. The questions are coming through the chat, but I just want to highlight that if anybody wants to put their hand up and come on the screen, you're more than welcome to do that. This is meant to be a community for you and a space where you all support each other and have conversation together. So unless somebody puts their hand up, I'm just going to keep asking questions that come through the chat. We had a question. Why do we feel that women have to constantly fight for a seat at the table? How can we navigate that?
I think that's changing. I think it is slowly changing. Organizations like Stories, creating that awareness. It used to be that you'd be invited to take part in a session and you'd be the token woman. And you'd be on a panel with men. It is slowly changing, but we have to be part of that change. We have to be the ones that have the voice to be part of that change. We have to stop suffering from this imposter syndrome that many of us do, and I've suffered from it myself in my own career. But we have to have the confidence to believe that we are absolutely have the right to be there. We have a right to have a seat at the table, but we have to project that confidence and that commitment from ourselves as well. We have to be part of that change. And I do feel it is slowly changing, maybe not fast enough, but it is slowly changing.
I love that. Thank you. Dudu? Anybody, I mean, whoever wants to add, it doesn't have to be all three, but whoever wants to add, please feel free to add.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Debbie that, we have to be part of the change. I think, being in positions of responsibility allows us to influence how things unfold going forward. So I think creating organizations that, being a woman is not necessarily something that stands out, it just becomes part of the norm. People expect to be part of certain tables or certain groups.
Having the connection
is provided is something as opposed to having to fight for, space at one particular table. So I think as we go, as we continue to build, as founders of businesses, I think just creating those enabling environments where not women and brought them on board. It's about creating an environment where women actually feel like they can contribute, they can thrive, you know. It's not a male-dominated environment with a few women sprinkled in, but it's an environment that allows women to completely be a part, you know. It's like, you know, having worked in a mine where, you know, do you have, just a simple example, you know, do you have bathrooms for women, or do you know, is it just male bathrooms, and then one day you get a female employee and then you realize, oh, we have a crisis, we don't have bathrooms for women, you know, and you have to quickly make a plan. But it's about showing that women are welcome, you know, you have the gear that they can wear and work comfortably in. So I think that, yes, it has been in the past that women have to really strive and fight to get into certain environments. But I think as founders, if we continue to build those environments that say anybody is welcome here, you know, you're a woman, you're a man, you know, it's more about what you know and what you can contribute, then I think we really start to see that shift.
If I can ask everybody, Elçin, if I can ask you, we had so many questions in the chat, so if you can keep your answer brief, I would love that. What do you think we can do?
Okay, I will keep it very short. I think Dr. Debbie said that we have many hats to wear at the beginning of the session. So yes, we have many hats, and it's not easy to exist in business life. But it's also important to stick around, to be in the business life, and to be a role model, to inspire people. And it's also very crucial for our professional growth as well. I've been working for 17 years in male-dominated energy sector, and which requires resilience, assertiveness, adaptability. But all these, let's say, bottlenecks contributed to my professional growth and made me who I am today. So, yes, breaking barriers strengthen my confidence and leadership skills and abilities. So we have to change our framing in front of the barriers. I think we have to look at our framing and beliefs in front of the problems as well.
All right, thank you. So we have a question, and maybe we can get one of you to answer that, just to make sure we have chance to ask all the questions that are coming through. Kindly advise, what should HR leaders do if management is not responsive to the change and less cooperative with HR? Maybe who would like to answer that?
I'm probably the wrong person to answer that, because I am 100% passionate about HR and the importance it has within an organization, and making sure that you have happy employees. Because if you've got happy employees, they're going to be far more productive. They'll stay with you. They'll grow with you. They won't want to leave. They'll feel appreciated. So I'm probably the wrong person to answer that, because I am 100% believe in the power and the necessity of having a strong HR team, and our HR team are probably 75% women. So I'm a true believer that women have that empathetic personality, and they listen differently to employees. But you just have to keep pounding away. If someone's not listening to you, you've got to present reasons why. I mean, your company will not survive unless you have the people, the right people within your organization to be able to deliver whatever your promise or your service or your product is within the organization. If you don't have the right people to do that, your business will very, very quickly die. So they need to listen. They have to listen. You have to make sure that they listen and give them the reasons why you need these people on board, why you need to invest in your people, why you need to invest in training, why you need to create a nurturing, happy environment. These are all part of success of any organization. And it always comes down to your people are your greatest success. You're nothing without the people within your organization.
Wonderful, thank you. Elçin or Dudu, have you had a situation where people were not listening, and have you managed to turn that around? Or maybe I can ask this question to anybody in the audience who's with us who would like to answer that. No? All right, let me go to the next question then. 1 second. I'm just reading the chat. So when we talk about talent, it's often to enable investment, long-term growth, and mentoring. In startup and scale-up culture, the timelines are short, cash is king, and we move fast. Any tips to cement the business case for investing in talent in such an environment? Beautiful question from Helen. Thank you.
Okay, let me chip in here. I would say yes. Okay, so definitely in startup environments, the pace is much quicker. We're doing things with a much smaller budget than we normally would. But at the same time, we do keep an eye on where we are heading. So there's a balance that needs to be struck between what can we afford to do now, what can we afford, in terms of the talent that we're bringing. For instance, if we're talking salaries, what can we afford to pay, versus how do we attract the very best talent in order to get us where we need to go, right? Those are things you need to balance. So you might not necessarily have cash, for instance, but there are other ways in which you might make the environment that you're offering attractive, whether through, it could be, if it's an option for you, things like share options in the business. It could be other ways of attracting and creating, real value for the employee. It could even be just in terms of the level of responsibility. You find that in startups, employees tend to wear many hats and tend to now dip their feet into many other areas than they normally would. And that is a growth opportunity maybe they would not have had in other more well-defined roles. So really packaging the value that they stand to gain in being part of the startup, in growing something from scratch, and seeing it evolve into a much more successful entity could be one way to pitch it, and be able to draw talent that maybe in other instances you wouldn't necessarily be able to afford if you were only looking at the dollar value, or the cash aspect of those salaries. So you really want to create those attractive environments. You want to create opportunities for growth, and you really want to package what you have such that people really see the value of contributing to building something. And I think when you look at especially your Gen Zs, your millennials, meaning and purpose weighs right up there alongside, but how much do I get at the end of the day? So I think really driving those points home and illustrating how valuable that experience is could in itself be an avenue to attracting better talent.
I love that. And we will have a session on generational leadership in September, because we are seeing a lot of that. A lot of, when you mention Gen Z, they're very, very purpose driven. And they want to feel like they have shared purpose within the organization. So I really, really like that. Thank you for mentioning it. We have Brahim have his hand up. Brahim is from a great place to work. Brahim, go ahead and ask a question.
Thank you, Lubna. I'm so happy to be part of this session. This is my first time to be part of this group, so this is a very interesting group to be part of. I'm just gonna give a quick input about the previous question. Sorry, I didn't have the chance to raise my hand when you asked about the conflict between, I wouldn't say conflict, but perhaps disagreement between HR and management and what happens in that scenario. So actually, I wrote on the messages that this is always the scenario about what you're trying to achieve as an HR person and having the leadership. I mean, Dr. Debbie is an exception, right, in terms of how she's perceiving things, but this is not always the scenario. It's always about how can I make sure that what I'm trying to achieve as an agenda or an objective is this something that the leaders are interested in. So this is why I speak about trust and shared accountability. Don't let them push you to do what you need to do. If they're interested in what you guys need to do, then you'll be successful. It's a shared accountability and responsibility. So when the CEO or the owner or the chairman or whatever the board is or the management is, they push you to do this and they say that you're accountable, you need to throw back the question, you need to throw back the accountability on them and say, we're in this together. Our success is a mutual accountability and responsibility, and we need to do it together. And going back to one of the speakers where he says it comes from the top, and it's all about the culture. The culture is actually driven by the top and enabled by the mid-management. HR is just an asset. They're not they are perhaps the catalyzer, but they're not the key ingredient in the process. The key ingredients are the managers, are the leadership, and this is how we can get that process in terms of creating that healthy and perspective of culture. I just wanted to comment on that, and people will not say that loudly. I can, because we speak to 8-9 organizations per day, and this is always a challenge. My CEO is not listening to me. I need to convince them about this. Don't convince. Throw back the accountability on them. That's what you need to do, guys. That's my tip from this conversation.
So it's leaning out. I have a question for you while you're here. Of the companies that you reject or that don't make it to a great place to work, what are the top reasons why they don't make it? If you could maybe in very briefly mention that.
People think that, and I'm gonna go back to the question that they asked previously about what I need to do about money, right? Everybody thinks salaries. I'm gonna tell you a tip. After COVID, salary is not the number one priority for people anymore. Flexibility is key. Understanding the culture of the business is key. Income is important, but is not the most important element of all. Because when employees are looking for a job, they're looking for a long-term partnership. I call it a marriage. They're looking for the right partner. So it's very important for them to find the right partner. And this is why, and because of the social sharing that's happening, employees are actually Googling and understanding what's happening in the company. This is why, as a great place to work, as an example, we have tripled in terms of participation rate coming from companies, which is very interesting for us, specifically after COVID. So I think COVID have showcased the bad face of companies. So this is why we have to be very careful in terms of how to position our brand in the eyes of our stakeholders. You spoke about females and about women. How would you be interested? How can you be appealing for other women to join you if you're not appealing for the women who are working with you currently? That's the question. So to go back to your question, Lubna, about what does it make it not a great place to work, when they don't think about the for all, when they don't think about women, about Generation Z, about millennials, and about their experience. It's not about money or improving the money or improving the salaries or improving. It's not that. If I'm a parent, are you listening to me as a parent? I need to pick up my kids from school. I used to do that during COVID or after COVID when the regulations were a bit less tougher. So looking at these small experience, that's what make a great place to work. When you think about the for all methodology, females, Generation Z, parents, all these different perspectives. And this is where when companies come to us and they say, I want to be a great place to work, it's all about an assessment of their culture, about their people experience. And I love in this session how much people emphasized on actively listening to your people. I love that. But what's more important is the action. Don't do more, do the right impact that will create the right perspective in your culture. So it's not about doing training and spending money and taking them out for a sport day and don't do more. Do an impactful action based on your active listening strategy. That's what makes a great place to work.
I love that. Thank you. Great intervention.
Ibrahim, sorry, Lubna. Ibrahim, that is just, I think that summarizes everything that we want to try and achieve, certainly from my perspective. Sometimes it can just be words. Words have such power to appreciate someone, make them feel valued. You know, as you said, it's not always about the money. Of course, it's always nice to give people a great salary, but there are other ways to make people happy, especially the younger generation, and flexibility. You know, whether it's hours, whether it's working from home, but being valued and appreciated. I think everybody wants to feel valued and appreciated. So it's those small words, those small gestures actually can mean such a huge amount to someone.
100%. And we have a full piece about leadership behavior. They play a key role in the process. And Dr. Revay, because you are a GM and you're not into HR, when you're speaking about employee experience, and trust me, there's not a lot of leaders. When I speak about leaders, I'm talking about CEOs and chairmen and all these guys, the C-level suite, who is interested in that. All what they're thinking about is revenues, which is great, and I understand that. But for you to achieve your revenues, you need to maximize human potential. And I think that correlation is where the C-level needs education on. This is why the leadership behavior play a key role in the process as well.
And I would like to add something. Ibrahim, congratulations, you summarized quite well, and I totally agree with you. Sometimes we, HR professional, tries to make a lot of project, big project, complicated project, and we want to make them all at the same time, but it doesn't work. Maybe what we are trying to do is not a remedy for our organization and for our people. So we have to understand, really understand our people. They just want to be heard, like Dr. Debbie said, sometimes just to be heard. So, and we need to focus on the 80%, which will, on the 20%, which will bring the 80% of the solutions. So we have to prioritize on the right solutions, projects that our organization specifically needs.
And that's the problem, right? Or all spending. Every time you think there's a problem, people throw money at it. Don't throw money. Don't do more. Do less. Think about impact. 100%. Love it.
I totally agree.
Nadine, have I answered most of the questions? Nadine,
there's one question. Maybe Dudu, if we can ask you for some tips on what it takes to set up that functional HR department as a startup, and how can you take that into a holistic view. Like Debbie said, Ibrahim, and all of you mentioned the importance of diversity. So what would, if we can put it down to 3 main things to make sure that are included when setting up an HR unit?
Okay, I think the very first thing, which is sort of at the most basic level, is to understand the compliance issues that are required. So understand in terms of legislation from where you're operating, what do you need to have in place, and make sure that is put in place. Okay, so once that is taken care of, then you really need to understand what it is as a business that you're doing. What are you trying to achieve? Where are you going? And that understanding will then inform the type of HR department that you need, the type of that HR department that you need in the longer term, but also what your current priorities are. Your priorities will inform who you need to have on board immediately and which positions you can then grow into over time. I think in addition, also just, I've talked about the compliance, I've talked about, understanding where you're going. I think the third thing would be really to ensure that you have you've assessed the sort of skills that you're going to need as a department. And that derives from understanding the strategy of the business as well. So is talent acquisition going to be a huge part of it? Employee relations, is that going to be a huge part of it? And then you can phase in each aspect depending on what the immediate priorities are and what the growth of the company looks like.
Thank you, Dudu.
Thank
we have
you.
questions from the screener, or if not, maybe Mariam can ask.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you all for being here with us today. It's been really amazing listening to you all. And Dudu, it's nice to have someone from my side of the world, I would say. So my question for you is, you've really tried to, spearhead people cultures and people programs. So what are your biggest takeaways as a VP of people when it comes to designing these forward-thinking programs?
Okay. I think my biggest takeaway has been, I think it's something, first of all, what we've talked about quite a lot, really understanding the people that work for us, understanding the environment in which we operate in, and really understanding what is it that brings results. I think a lot of the time there's a lot of buzzwords that are thrown around. There's a lot of trendy things that are happening, which are not necessarily what's going to bring us results. So when we think about designing new programs, we think about, but what is it that truly is going to be transformative in our particular context without necessarily following the latest trend. So that's the lean out aspect of it, right? It's truly looking at our particular context and what is going to make a difference for us. And as a business, I think with Duka, when we decided to focus on, for instance, bringing more women on board, it was looking at our particular environment and saying, but we live in an environment where there are many women who are qualified, who, or at least have the potential maybe to study further, who don't necessarily have access to opportunities for employment. As a business, we serve dukas or small retailers, the majority of whom are owned by women. I think it's close to 70% in Kenya, they're owned by women. So we thought, okay, why not then extend our impact beyond just the dukas that we serve and just benefit all women around in our community, right? So that was one way that we looked at our own community and thought, okay, how can we as a business actually do something that is impactful for us, you know, and for our immediate environment without necessarily it being about, oh, what's the latest trend and so on and so forth, right? So I think the biggest takeaway for me is to really be in tune with what's happening around you, really listen to what people are saying and what people actually need versus what we think people would need or what we think everyone else is doing. So we need to jump onto that train, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, not everything that works everywhere else or abroad is going to work in your environment. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Speaking of trends, I'm noticing also the discussion on trends and Ibrahim saying everybody's talking, I don't go there. Actually, Ibrahim, we do a poll in every community session. And last month we did a poll and HR, tech, and data was the highest rated topic that everybody wants to talk about. So next month,
we are going there.
And we have the head of HR of IBM in Canada joining us for that and 2 other speakers. So we will be doing that on April 26th and maybe
April 24th.
24th.
24th, sorry. Yeah. Nadine knows everything. So maybe Nadine, you can take us through the next set of slides. There's only 3 minutes left. Anybody who has more questions will stay behind and answer any questions that you have. Nadine, I'll shift back over to you.
All right, so
speakers, by the way, from my side, thank you, Elchin and Dudu and Dr. Debbie, and I'm really grateful for your presence and time and to everyone who has asked questions. Nadine.
All right, great. So yes, we have heard and listened to the community, and HR, tech, data, and AI was the highest rated one, and that's why it's going to be our next event, April 24th. I ask you to scan the QR code. You can register from now. As mentioned, we've got a head of HR, IBM, and we're finalizing a few others. So a lot of information is going to be shared over the next couple of days. And then beyond that, for those who may not be interested in AI and don't want to go there, we have another series of topics coming up, also all based on input from everyone here. We've got performance, we've got rewards and performance, and we've actually got people from our community joining us as speakers. Great place to work, Ibrahim, as well. And then we've got the generational leadership coming up. We are working towards something exciting and big, October 8th. I will not delve into the details yet, but I would invite you to join our community. My colleague Noor will add the link in the comments. I invite you to join our community so that you can stay updated with it. And feel free to reach out to us, join us on our LinkedIn, book a call, ask questions. We're all about coming together and really just, you know, making this work and really coming together as one big happy community. So thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining us. I will hand over to Lubna if you want to say anything else.
No, I just want to say maybe a huge thank you to everyone who joined, and maybe last words for the 3 speakers. Anything you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Well, from my side, again, thank you so much. And it was so fantastic to see some of these questions coming through from the attendees, because it's when you share thoughts and ideas, and you take practices from different parts of the world, you can create something amazing. And I think Dudu mentioned, doesn't matter where you come from, you have the same issues at the heart of organizations. So just being able to talk to each other about that, share those thoughts, and come up with best practices or new ideas, how to adapt, how to be flexible. So again, it's been such an interesting session for me. So thank you again for the opportunity. It's been really wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Elçin and Dudu?
Yes. Yes, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this session today. I've enjoyed hearing from the other panel audience. I really look forward to participating more in this community in the next few months. I'm really loving what I'm hearing and getting out of this community. So thanks once again for including me in this.
Thank you, Dudu. And Elçin?
Thank you so much for this opportunity to lean out. People-related issues are much more difficult than ever for every one of us, I think. So we have to continue to get together, to share, to learn from, to co-generate, to address these complex issues together. It was very enjoyable and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Debi and Dudu. Nice to meet you. See you soon, I say.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you next month in April. We look forward to that. If anyone wants to stick around and ask questions, do that, or just have a chat. And if anyone wants to reach out and to be featured, please do that also. And we'll find space and time within our calendar. I look forward to connecting with many of you, and thank you. And I wish you a blessed evening, wherever you're dialing in from, or a blessed day.
Likewise.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye all.
Bye.